Hello card gamers, Rasmero here, and this time we are going to be opening the Operation 00 Battle Spirits X Gundam Collaboration Starter deck. So as usual, we've got the playmats, the core, again, 2 pieces of 15 each, the numbers shouldn't vary, as well as the red soul core over here, and finally the deck itself. So I'm gonna open this the same way I opened the Operation Seed one. Very cool art to start off. We've got Gundam Exia as our X-Rare. I believe only 2 copies. And Gundam Exia Transam as our second X-Rare. So I'm sure you guys can already guess that Transam is going to be a major mechanic in this 00 deck. Very fitting since I think it's exclusive to Season 1 for now. Gundam Virtue Transam. 2 copies of that, and Gundam Curios in Transam. Can't really see the Transam in this one though. I guess it's kind of there, but it's a bit hard to see. 2 of that I believe, and Gundam Dynamis Transam as well. And I think all the Transams are Master Rare. No. Only Gundam Virtue is Master Rare. The rest are just rares. It's kind of hard to tell because in Battle Spirits, rares and Master Rares kind of look about the same. So now the normal ones, we've got Curios, 3 copies of Curios, and Virtue. Should be 3 copies as well of Virtue, yes. Because I think similar to Yu-Gi-Oh! In Battle Spirits, the card limit for a card of each type is 3, unlike Vanguard, which is 4. Gundam Dynamis, we've got 2 only, must have a pretty good effect. Then we have Gundam Nadle, of course we need this for Season 1 representation, 2. And now moving on to the Pilot Braves, we've got Alleluia Hoptism, 1, 2, and Setsuna FC for 1, 2, 3, and Tierra Erd. We've got 1, 2 of that. Lock-on Stratos, my favorite character, 1, 2. And next we've got GN Arms Type E. I know this exists, I just can't remember if it appeared in the show within Season 1, although I think it did appear in the end. So this is a Brave that is not a pilot, an actual Brave. So we've got 1, 2 of that, and oh wow, hello Haro. So we've got a 00 version of Haro as well. Ptolemaios, of course, is going to be a Nexus to complement the Archangel that we saw in the C deck. Then we have Tomara, we can't be stopped, a magic card, Tomara 9, and then we have We Are, Watashi tachi wa Celestial Being. We Are Celestial Being, a magic burst card, 2 copies of that, and yep, just our point cards. Just like the Operation C deck, we've got 3 copies of a reprint that features the art of one of the heroines of the series. This time we've got Strong Draw with, I think her name's Marina Ismail, 3 copies of that. Now, the first thing to notice is that this deck has a lot more Braves than Operation Seed, which was white. Now, blue in Battle Spirits doesn't really correspond to any particular strategy. If there was one, I would say that blue is mostly associated with deck destruction, but I highly doubt that the 00 deck is going to be aimed towards that. Blue is also associated with many, that's just very technical playing styles that are very varied and different from the remaining 5 colors, which tend to have a much more like a core individual personality. Blue is a lot more unique. So to understand this deck, I think we should start from the non-Transam. Flash armed intervention during your opponent's attack step. So essentially, while Exia is in your hand, and I believe this applies to all of the Celestial Being mobile suits as well, you are allowed to summon them from the hand during your opponent's attack step or battle phase as long as you pay the cost. However, the cost will be more expensive than their typical cost. So Exia normally is a cost 3 card with 2 reduction, whereas its armed intervention cost is cost 4 with 3 reduction. So if you do have the right amount of symbols or cards at play on your field, you are able to summon it at the same cost, but at the baseline, it is slightly more expensive to summon it during your opponent's turn compared to during your own turn. At levels 1, 2, and 3, Exia possesses the Transam effect when this spirit attacks, return this spirit to the hand, and if you do, take one Gundam Exia Transam from your trash, aka graveyard, and basically summon it at no cost. This effect can be activated also after this spirit attack. So that means you could activate it while Exia is attacking, but then when you return it to the hand, that basically means this attack stops. Or you can activate it after the attack is over, the opponent has taken damage, then you can return it to the hand and bring out the Exia Transam. So honestly, that is very versatile and flexible and kind of fitting of blue, I would say, just essentially causing a lot of inconvenience for your opponent. But I think the issue with this is that the Exia Transam must be in your grave, in your trash, and not your hand. So you do have to consider what are the strategies you need to use to get your Transams in your grave in the first place in order to exploit these effects. At levels 2 and 3, this spirit gains Assault 2 when this spirit attacks up to twice per turn. By exhausting one of your Nexuses, you can refresh this spirit. So this is an old effect that applies to many blue cards. Essentially, while having many Nexuses on your field, you can exhaust your Nexus to give your spirit an additional attack. So for Exia, due to his speed and mobility, he can attack up to 3 times a turn if you have the Nexuses to exhaust. Now let's check out, okay. Why don't we do it in pairs, alright? So since we just did Exia, let's take a look at what Exia Transam can do. While this card is in the trash, aka the graveyard, its symbol is counted as being on the field when you use Armed Intervention. So essentially, this deck's whole gimmick is that you want to get your Transams in the grave. Because while they're in the grave, you can Transam into them from the normal Gundams. Not only that, their symbols count as reduction towards your Armed Intervention effects. That means, the more Transams you have in your grave, the less mana or core you need to pay in order to summon your 00 Celestial Being Gundams during the opponent's battle phase with your Armed Intervention effect. So essentially, it looks like the whole key mechanic of this deck is getting these guys to the grave, your Transams. At levels 1, 2, and 3, when this spirit attacks once per turn, you can refresh this spirit, just simple and powerful. At levels 1, 2, and 3, during your end step, basically the end of your turn, put this spirit into your trash. Oh, because Transam only lasts for like 3 minutes, I think if I remember correctly, they can only last 1 turn on your field. Once you summon them at the end of the turn, they return to your trash. So that is one main gimmick that you can make use of in order to fill your trash with these Transam units. At levels 2 and 3, when this spirit attacks, your opponent cannot activate the burst effects of spirit cards, so essentially preventing your opponent from activating their traps unless they've set a magic as their burst, then they can do. So it's basically blocking out like half the potential traps that your opponent might use. And furthermore, once per turn, refresh this unit, giving it an additional attack. So as long as Exia Transam is level 2, it can basically refresh twice per turn, giving it 3 attacks, similar to the original non-Transam version. So that's pretty interesting, basically trying to rush your opponent down like that. So now let's take a look at Gundam Curios. How about that? Our second Celestial Being unit. So, just like Exia, it possesses Armed Intervention, which will be cost 4 with 2 blue reductions. Level 1 and 2, when this spirit is summoned or attacked, once per turn, take 1 core from your void and move it to this spirit. So, very similar to the Seed deck effects for Freedom and Strike, basically allowing you to core boost and accumulate more mana. At levels 1 and 2, that's its Transam effect when this spirit attacks. So, essentially the same as Exia. However, while Exia's Transam can activate at the end of the battle, that means your normal Exia can deal damage and then you swap it out for Transam Exia, Curios Exia can only be activated during the battle. That means you attack with it, then you have to swap it out for Curios Transam, and you're basically negating the effect, the attack that just happened. So you do have to sacrifice 1 damage in order to go into Transam. So I think this might apply to Dynamis and Virtue as well. So only Exia has that like insane effect that basically makes Transam extremely efficient. So now let's take a look at Curios in Transam mode. It has the same beginning effect. It has the same base effect as Exia Transam. While it's in the trash, its symbol does count as reduction to paying for the cost of your armed intervention effects. At levels 1, 2, and 3, when this spirit is summoned, you may add 1 core from the void to one of your celestial being spirits and one of your archangel Nexuses. So this is just, it looks like Curios is just going to be mini support for this deck for core boosting, adding that core to one of your spirits and your Tolomayos. At levels 1 and 2 and 3, during your end step, put this spirit into the trash, okay? The typical Transam expiration effect. So that's all for Curios. Now moving on, let's talk about, I want to talk about Dynamis next, but looks like I might have placed it in a different pile. Did I? Where's my Dynamis? I might have accidentally put it in the Transam pile. There we go. So let's take out normal Dynamis and Transam Dynamis at the same time. Here we go. So let's start with normal Dynamis. Just like Exia and Curios, armed intervention cost for 3 reduction blue symbols. At levels 1 for armed intervention. At levels 1 and 2, when this spirit is summoned or attacks, ignoring the cost of Braves, destroy one of your opponent's cost 3 or less spirits. So very similar to the Buster Gundam in Operation C, just that Dynamis does a destruction instead of returning to the hand or returning to deck. At levels 1 and 2, it possesses the Transam effect, exactly the same as Curios. It can only Transam while attacking, not after attacking, with the same detriment, so it does not have the benefit that Exia has. Next, Gundam Dynamis Transam. Once again, its symbol in the trash can contribute to armed interventions reduction. At levels 1, 2, and 3, when this spirit is summoned, ignoring the cost of the Brave, destroy one of your opponent's cost 7 or less spirits. So essentially just a more powerful version of the normal Dynamis on summon effect. Levels 1, 2, and 3, during your end step, it's sent to the trash, just like the other Transam units. Next, we're gonna look at Virtue as well as Virtue Transam, which I think is gonna have quite a powerful effect considering it's a master rare. Let's take a look at the typical Virtue first. Gundam Virtue. Flash armed intervention cost 4 with 3 blue reduction signal, 3 blue reduction symbols. At levels 1 and 2, all of your celestial being spirits, when they are destroyed by your opponent's effects, you're allowed to remain on the field in exhausted state. Wow! Just this normal card, having Virtue on your field is extremely powerful already, protecting your entire field from the opponent's destruction, saving your resources. At level 1 and 2, it possesses the Transam when it attacks or blocks. Again, you can exchange places with the Virtue Gundam. Okay, so Virtue Gundam Transam. As usual, this spirit symbol in the trash contributes to armed intervention. At levels 1, 2, and 3, when this spirit is summoned, destroy one of your opponent's mothership Nexuses, and this effect cannot be blocked by Bullet Curtain. That means your opponent's Archangel is the C deck, in the C deck is literally gonna just explode. And also, instead of activating the above effect, you could also take 4 core from your opponent's Grand Walker Nexus and move them into the void. Now, if we're going to talk about I'm not going to go into deep detail about Grand Walkers for those who are not familiar with Battle Spirits, but those are essentially Nexuses that are currently in the Battle Spirits meta. So by adding that additional option to use as Transam Virtue's effect, you're basically allowing Virtue in Transam mode to be able to be used effectively against both an opponent using a Gundam deck as well as the more mainstream Battle Spirits meta decks as well, really increasing the entire versatility of this deck, which I really like. And finally, levels 1, 2, and 3, during the end step, this spirit moves into the trash, just like all the other Transams. Now let's talk about Nadle. Once per turn, when your spirit card with Virtue in its name leaves the field because of your opponent, whether it's by battle or by effect, you can summon this card without paying any cost from either the hand or the trash. So completely fits in line with the lore and Virtue's transformation to Nadle completely. Just take note, you can only activate this once per turn. When this spirit is summoned, you may refresh 3 of your spirits with Celestial Being. So yeah, very powerful defensive card. Let's say you've got all 4 Celestial Being Gundams on the field, your opponent attacks and they're essentially going to overwhelm you. You block with Exia, Dynamis and Curios first, you block with Virtue last. Virtue is destroyed, you swap it with Nadle. Nadle hits the field, refreshes your Dynamis, Exia and Curios, allowing you to block 3 more attacks and essentially survive that bombardment. Very useful card. So I think that's all the spirits. Let's move into the Braves next, especially the pilots. Let's start with Setsuna. Setsuna, F. Say. So just like all the pilots, I'm not going to repeat this after this, but in spirit form, this Brave cannot attack or block. At level 1, when this Brave is summoned, draw 2 cards from your deck. After that, discard 1 card from your deck. Simple effect that we see in most card games. Very useful. After that, you can summon a cost 3 blue Celestial Being Spirit from your hand at 1 cost. So essentially allowing you to summon Exia for cheap, or Curios, or any of the other cost 3 ones. Its Brave condition is Mobile Suit and cost 3 and above. While braved, while this spirit is level 2 or higher, this spirit gains an additional blue symbol, which is good because your symbols are the damage you deal to your opponent. So that means all of your essentially this spirit inflicts extra damage to your opponent while also supplying greater reduction to the other blue cards that you happen to have. So let's talk about Lock-on Stratos next. When this Brave is summoned, draw 2 cards from your deck. After that, discard 1 card. Okay, so it looks like the pilots in 00 all share very similar effects. After that, you may summon a cost 3 blue spirit card from your hand at 1 cost. Okay, completely the same as Setsuna up to this point. Brave condition is also Mobile Suit and cost 3 or higher. While Brave, the cost destruction effects of all of your spirits, which include Dynamis in their name, increase by 3. What does this mean? Okay, so let me find the normal Dynamis for you guys again. I think what's here. Okay, so Dynamis when summoned allows you to destroy an opponent's spirit that is cost 3 or less, and a Transam Dynamis can basically do the same but for cost 7 or less. So as long as you have 1 Lock-on Stratos on the field that is Brave to any card, that increases the limit of both of these effects by 3. So normal Dynamis can now bomb 6 or less, Transam Dynamis can bomb 10 or less. So increasing their sniping range, very nice. So next, let's talk about Alleluia Haptism. So essentially his base effects are all the same, just like Setsuna and Lock-on. Brave condition is also Mobile Suit and cost 3 or higher. While Brave, when this spirit attacks, this spirit cannot be blocked by your opponent's spirits with an original cost of 5 or less. So essentially kind of giving that curious boost, allowing you to sneak in and dish out damage without being blocked, because unless your opponent has high cost units, they won't be able to block this attack. Next, Tierra Erd. Same effects, I believe. Yes, exactly the same for the starting part. Brave condition is also Mobile Suit cost 3 or higher. While Brave, during your attack step, while your Celestial Being Spirits are attacking, all of your opponent's magic cards and XL effects get plus 3 cost. This effect does not stack. Essentially, if your opponent wants to protect themselves from you using either a magic or XL effect, they have to pay an extra 3 core or 3 mana every single time, so making it hard for your opponent to defend against. Of course, this does not stack, so even if you have 2 Tierras on the field, it's still a plus 3, not a plus 6, which is honestly completely fair, because the moment you make it plus 6, you can basically just do whatever you want. Okay, so now let's take a look at the other Nexuses first. So I believe the remaining Nexuses, we have Halo, Ptolemaeus, and the GN Arms. So we're gonna take a look at the GN Arms Type E first. Once per turn, when you summon a spirit with Exia in its name, you can return this card from the trash to your hand. So makes complete sense, Exia supporter. So normally, 1 spirit can only be braved to 1 brave, 1 equipped. However, for GN Arms Type E, if you have a spirit that's already brave to a pilot, you can also brave this GN Arms Type E on top of it, ignoring that number limitation. So essentially letting you have 2 braves, a pilot, as well as the GN Arms on top of one of your Celestial Being Gundams, which of course completely fits the lore. However, this is only limited to 1 extra brave, so you can't stack like 3 GN Arms Type E's on top of your Exia with Setsuna, because that would be kind of dumb. Anyway, Brave Condition is just cost 3 or higher, so you could potentially use this in a non-Mobile Suit Gundam deck as well. While Brave, while this spirit attacks once per turn, refresh one of your blue Nexuses. So this goes well with the Exia effect, because Exia has Assault, which allows you to exhaust a Nexus up to twice a turn to refresh Exia twice. However, if you only have one Nexus on the field, GN Arms Type E is going to allow you to refresh the Nexus once and tap it twice to activate Exia's effect to its full potential. So now let's look at Haro. Now this is something I'm quite curious about. Haro, I wonder if it's the same effect as Seed. Level 1 and Level 2, when you deploy this Nexus, okay, it's exactly the same effect as Seed. Reveal the top 2 cards of your deck. You can add one blue card that contains the attribute Mobile Suit, or Mobile Armor, or Mothership, or Support Machine, or Pilot, or Captain, or Crew, and discard the remaining cards, exactly the same. At Level 2, any of your spirits with Dynamis, Keldym, or Zabania with a Soul Core placed on them is not affected by your opponent's effect. So, of course, this only affects Lock-On series of Gundams, because Lock-On is the only one that uses a Haro. But the important part of this is, by saying that, they've essentially revealed that in the future, they might be making the 00 Gundams from Season 2, as well as the movie Awakening of the Trailblazer, in order to fit in with this effect as well. That's why they've taken the foresight to include this. Otherwise, they'd only put Dynamis. But now we know. Keldym and Zabania, and even 00 and 00 Quanta, and everyone else, man. Arios, Harute, Seraphim, and whatever Virtue's final form was, they might all just come. And Ptolemaeus is the next Nexus at level 1 and 2 during your main step. Once per turn, if you have a blue Celestial Being Spirit on your field, you can pay 1 cost to draw 2 cards from your deck and then discard 1 card. So just swapping out the cards in your hand, gaining more advantage. Level 2, during your main step, once per turn. Oh, you may pay 1 cost to summon 1 Gundam Meister Brave from your trash. So just by having Ptolemaeus from your field, every turn you can essentially get back your Setsuna, your Lock-On, your Kieria, your Alleluia, all according to your own needs, whichever one fits the situation. And that's actually honestly pretty powerful. Like, the Gundam Seed deck seems to be kind of lacking in this regard, because like I feel like the pilots are pretty good, but you don't really have a way to retrieve or save them. Now next, let's look at the magic cards. We have We Can't Be Stopped. Main effect. While you have a Celestial Being Spirit on your field during this turn, all of your opponent's magic and excel costs increase by 3. So similar as the Tieria when Brave effect, just making it harder for your opponent to stop your movements. Flash, during this turn, 1 spirit wins BP plus 3k. A very typical blue effect, honestly, just giving you a brief power boost that you can use to counter an opponent's effect, especially while blocking. Next, we have We Are Celestial Being, a burst effect. You can activate this set burst card when your opponent's spirit, after your opponent's spirit or ultimate attacks. During this turn, your opponent's spirits and ultimates that are not brave, that means they're not equipped with any braves or equips, cannot reduce your life. That is honestly very powerful, both in the Gundam format and in the meta as well. After that, by paying the cost, you can activate this card's Flash effect, Flashed. Flash, ignoring the brave cost, you can destroy your opponent's spirit and ultimates, as many as you want, up to a total of cost 7. So, a pretty blue effect and very destructive as well. Honestly, it would work pretty well against another 00 deck because they're all low cost, whereas Seed is a bit higher cost in that regard. And I think the final spell we're talking about today is Strong Draw, with the reprint with Marina Asi's Smile. Main effect, draw 3 cards from your deck. After that, discard 2 cards from your hand. So again, very blue. Drawing more, discarding, getting more, swapping out the cards in your hand, gaining advantage. Flash effect, during this turn, 1 spirit gains BP plus 3k. So very simple and can be very effective as well. So I guess that'll be it for the Gundam 00 deck. Once again, if you enjoyed this video, do give it a like. Let me know what you guys think about these Battle Spirits Gundam collaboration cards in the comment section down below, and hope to see you guys in the final next episode, the opening of Operation Unicorn. And with that, see you guys there.